Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hello friends, this is Kevin Lopez from Personal Tutor once again bringing to you a very fine poem that is Keeping Quiet by a Chilean poet, Pablo Neruda. This is a poem that was actually written in Spanish. This poem has been translated by numerous people out there. It has been narrated at various instances, events, because it really goes ahead and works up the force of humanity. Pablo Neruda, a famous poet, got his Nobel Prize for Literature in the year 1971. Sadly, after that, in 1973, we saw a loss, a demise of this famous laureate. This poem is about the lost generosity, the lost goodness, the interest, the importance of humanity, my friends. The stanza-wise explanation here shall go ahead. Now we will count to 12 and we will all keep still. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. Now I will count till 12. Friends, 12 plays an important role in everything. May it be the 12 hours of the day, may it be the 12 hours of the night, may it be 12 months of the year. So the poet here asks us to keep quiet and do nothing until he counts 12. It's a metaphor for the space and the time that he's buying. He asks us, and we will keep all still. We won't be running around from the rushing life of ours. We run around doing things. In the morning we get up. We have to get ready for our work, for our school, for our jobs, for our daily chores. The mothers, they get up in the morning. Here the poet says, let's do one thing today. Let's not do anything until I count 12. For once on the face of earth, let's not speak in any language. For once, let us not be Hindus, let us not be Muslims, let us not be Christians, let us not be Sikhs, let us not be Indian, let us not be Pakistani, let us not be any person who is divided by any caste, creed, culture, religion. Let us be one. Again, it is let's stop for a second and not move our arms so much. Let's stop for a second. Let's take a calmness. Let's go ahead and take a calm unit and just work it out. We just need to go ahead and be calm, be restful, be peaceful from the daily chores and the routines that we have. So in the first stanza, the poet is asking us humbly to leave everything, forget the barriers of the caste, the creed, the religion, and just be calm. Take a deep breath, be calm, my friends. Let's go ahead for the second stanza. The second stanza, it would be an exotic moment without rush, without engines. We would be all together in a sudden strangeness. Fishermen on the cold sea would not harm whales, and the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. Don't you think, my friends, if the whole world stops for a moment, everybody rejoicing the joy of oneness, the uniqueness, it would be a beautiful saga that would be sung for eons, my friends. Let's, without the rush, without the engines, let's not carry on the daily rushes that we have without the engines, that is the automobiles. We go ahead and use our cars and all various things of transport. Let's stop it all. Let's go ahead and see. Let's find in the sudden strangeness. Now that would be a strange situation because we as humans have never felt this strange calmness ever before. We have never gone ahead and felt such peace around us. That's why the poet says it to be strangeness. Fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales. Here, Pablo Neruda explains the weightage. Friends, the whale industry, the whaling ships are one of the most brutal if we talk about the hunting procedures. The way a whale is caught, butchered, brought on the ship is simply inexplainable and sad. Thus, he says, no man would be going ahead and killing any of the God's creation, may it be a person or an animal. Let's take a break from those tedious tasks of the salt workers who all day work in the salt pans, so that even they may see the butchered hands of theirs. They may see the wounds that the salt has created in the palms. So that's what he says over here. The third stanza is a bit crude and has a depth. Those who prepare green wars, wars with gas, wars with fire, victory with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade doing nothing. What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Life is what is it about. I want to truck with death. The poet here says, people who have wars with green. My friends, green war here depicts a war written by words. Green stands for the books, the notebooks, the literature. That is the war that is being taken place through words, through diplomacy, through delicacy. The delegates representing the countries sitting in the headquarters, fighting off the things on papers. People who fight with gas. There are numerous cases of sarin gases and chlorine, and everything would be going ahead and fighting in the Middle East at same. Fighting with fire, as we can see the fire-using guns that US had during the Second World War. All the people who would be fighting smeared with blood, covered in all drainy things, would wear white. That is, would be at peace and walk with their brothers. That is the enemy. He calls them humans and would walk with brothers. That's a beautiful thought that the poet has commented upon. What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. What the poet is saying here, I don't want people to just sit down at home and do nothing at all. Don't take it as death. People sitting there and doing nothing at all. Inactivity. No, it's not that form of life that he's looking forward. In fact, he wants them to change the scenario and go ahead and do something constructive that would be better for the humanity. That's what the poet explains over here, my friends. The last lines he says, life is what it is about. I want no truck with death. He says, let's understand what's the true meaning of the life. He would definitely not go ahead and barge upon something that is equivalent to death, to destruction, to total emptiness. So please mark his words, my friends. He does not want to confuse the calmness with inactivity. The fourth stanza here says, if we were not so single-minded about keeping our lives moving, and for once could perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. Now here the poet says clearly to us is that if we were not so single-minded about keeping our lives moving, we as humans think that the daily routine that we follow is our life. The poet explains beautifully the meaning of life is a lot more different. The calmness, the joy, the peace that we can share is the biggest gift given to humanity. Rather than running out for boisterousness, lustrous joys, bloated egos, false attitudes, that's what the poet denies. He quickly says, let's not get into it. And this huge silence may once in our life break the sadness of the daily routine life that we are bound into, my friends. It's actually that we have been weaving in a shroud called life, And the whole demeanor just relies around trying to get out of that shroud. Seems to be logical enough to be understood. Of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. We are so busy and bound in the daily chores that we hardly understand ourselves. As humans, we are someone who should cherish this life. We have been given this gift. Why to spend it in hatred, war, killing, cutting? Why not take a break? Why not realize who we are? That's what keeping quiet means over here. He asks us to take a pause, take a break. Doesn't it sound good now? The fifth stanza is, perhaps the earth can teach us as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. Now I'll count up to 12 and you keep quiet and I will go. Wow. The poet here speaks about Mother Earth. Friends, if you try and explore the nature of the earth, it may seem dead. Although there are barren lands, although there are icy capes, although there are stormy seas, the earth seems to be lifeless. Yet there is life in the form of organisms, cellular, unicellular, going on to the earth. Let's suppose we have sown a seed below the land and patted it with water and manure and all such things. It would look as dead as a corpse. Yet the other day, a fine shroud of a plant would break its arms out of the earth and spread its wings under the clear blue sky. That's what the poet explains. We may seem lifeless, but let us look at the earth. Although it seems lifeless, yet it is full of life. It has got unnoticed forms of life, my friends. That's what the poet explains. Now I'll count up to 12 and you keep quiet and I'll go. Again the poet is saying, I'll again count till 12. You please keep quiet and I'll pass away. Beautifully explained, beautifully said. The poet is giving us a notion of rejoicement up till he counts 12. It may be 12 hours, it may be 12 months, it may be 12 weeks of a season. It's simply splendid, my friends. That's what the poet explains over here. Let's have a look at a few question and answers related to this. Although a brief would be enough for you to answer them in your languages, yet I would be providing you some metaphors that would be helpful for you in your examinations. Now, what will counting up to 12 and keeping still help us in achieve? The poet here emphasizes on taking a pause. He explains it beautifully that by taking a pause in life, we can achieve the silence, the happiness, the peace that we usually forget in the daily harsh routine of ours. Do you think the post advocates total inactivity and death? No. The post given by the poet does not advocate total inactivity and death. He has mentioned over here, don't take my words as death. He explains a moment of silence, a moment of pause to be something of total inactivity, yet he says it clearly, don't take it as death is complete, finished, the femdom of everything. Here he explains, let us take our silence as the Mother Earth, as if something is cooking, as Mother Earth grinds itself, churns itself and lets a seed grow into a plant. That's what the poet wants us to take a pause, take a believe, and impregnate some new thoughts. What is the sadness that the poet refers to in the poem? The sadness that poet refers is the engulfment of the daily routines that we are into. Usually here in India, friends, they call it a situation of being tense. Tension. We as humans are barged into daily routines. We are inflicted by the rods of living life in a crude way. We look forward to live life as it comes. We never take a pause and allow ourselves to change the life into what it is supposed to be lived as. Something very important. What symbol from nature does the poet invoke to say that there can be life under apparent stillness? Although the poet here explains, and I've explained it in the poem as well, the poet explains here that the symbol of earth here provides us the exact notion of what life can be. He provides us an explanation, an example of how we can be calm yet developing something below the surface and giving birth to a new thing. That's what Mother Earth does. Hope you liked the explanation, my friends. Do comment below. We would solicit your comments at most. So this is another chapter from 12th standard that I have explained today. You can actually go ahead and comment about more things that we can work up. If you have any questions, any specific chapter, poem, you can just write it about and we can explain it to you. Want to know something about personal tutors? So just press the button about us. We have been delivering quite a number of explanations, briefs, not just in English literature, but in all subjects for you, my friends. That's what we at Personal Tutor are dedicated for. We also provide you notes online. We provide you data in pen drives on request. And we request you to subscribe our channel. We have crossed a number of 6K as well now. A good rating, good commenting, and a goodwill that we have followed just by your support, friends. So this is today Kevin Lopez signing off. If you have any more questions, do let me know and we would be glad to help you out, my friends. So thanking you once again, it's Kevin.